Hi class, let's talk about the concept of degree days. And so degree days are used primarily, heating and cooling degree days are used by the utility companies. Growing degree days are used by the agricultural companies. Okay, so let's talk about heating and cooling degree days first. This is one application of temperature data. Okay, and so degree days are indicators of energy, electricity or natural gas, that's going to be consumed in space heating or space cooling. Okay, so heating degree days are indicators of energy consumption for space heating, and cooling degree days are indicators of energy consumption for space cooling. Okay, the temperature, 65 degrees Fahrenheit, is kind of the magical temperature because that's the temperature at which it's been calculated where if the average daily temperature is 65 degrees Fahrenheit, that's the perfect temperature. You don't have to warm your house, you don't have to cool your house, you won't have to use air conditioning or heating that particular day. That's just the perfect temperature, is an average daily temperature of 65 degrees. Okay? If you calculate the average daily temperature for every degree that the average daily temperature is below 65 degrees Fahrenheit, you accumulate one heating degree day. Okay? For every degree in which the average daily temperature is above 65 degrees Fahrenheit, you're going to accumulate one cooling degree day. Okay? So the equation, it's a very simple equation. Heating degree days are calculated as 65 degrees Fahrenheit minus the average daily temperature. Okay? And that's it. That's the entire equation. Okay. So let's do an example. So what if it's a nice cold winter day. Maybe the maximum temperature on that day was 22 degrees Fahrenheit. The minimum temperature, low temperature on that day, hit 0. Okay, so then we need to calculate the average daily temperature. Okay, and so that would simply be 22 degrees Fahrenheit plus 0 degrees Fahrenheit divided by 2. So that's 22 degrees Fahrenheit divided by 2 is 11 degrees Fahrenheit. So our average daily temperature on this day is going to be 11 degrees Fahrenheit. So the number of heating degree days accumulated on this particular day will be 65 degrees Fahrenheit minus 11 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so that means there will be a total of 54 heating degree days accumulated on this particular day. Okay, and so basically the bigger the number for heating degree days, the more energy you're going to consume to warm your house. And so the number of heating degree days accumulated over a day, over a week, over a month is going to be proportional to the energy consumed to warm your house. Okay. Now, cooling degree days would be a summertime thing here in Green Bay. And so cooling degree days, the equation is very similar. We're just going to flip-flop them. So it's going to be the average daily temperature minus 65 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and so we'll do an example here. So we'll make it easy on ourselves for the calculation. So if our maximum temperature was 90 degrees Fahrenheit and our minimum or low temperature that day was 70 degrees Fahrenheit, we calculate an average daily temperature. So that would be 90 degrees Fahrenheit plus 70 degrees Fahrenheit divided by 2 would be 160. Divided by 2 would be 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. So our cooling degree days accumulated on this particular day would be 80 degrees Fahrenheit minus 65 degrees Fahrenheit equals 15. So there would be 15 cooling degree days accumulated on this particular day. Okay, so again, it's cooling degree days are an indicator of the energy consumption for cooling your dwelling, your house. So the total number of cooling degree days accumulated on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis is going to be proportional to the amount of energy that you consumed to cool your house or your dwelling on this particular day. Okay. There is one more form of degree day that we look at, and that's the growing degree day. Yep. So, a growing degree day is used by the agricultural industry. Okay. And in particular, it's used by the companies like Del Monte, Hunt's, Green Giant, Libby's, any of those companies that will can vegetables. Growing degree days are used by these types of companies, okay? And so a growing degree day is used to approximate the date that the crop will be ready to harvest, okay? So you don't want all of your peas or your beans or your corn, you don't want them all ready to harvest at one time because they're a perishable food item. And so you want to spread out the harvest time for all of your crops so that you can spread out the canning period. Okay? And so that's what growing degree days are used in the agricultural industry to help get a handle on when crops will be ready to harvest so you can spread out that canning period and not lose crops to rotting, okay, since they're a perishable food item. Okay? So growing degree days, again, very simple calculation, very similar to the calculation for cooling degree days. It's going to be the average daily temperature Okay, this time though, there's no specific, it's not 65 degrees, it's going to be a base temperature. And that base temperature is going to be based on the type of crop that it is. So every crop has its own base temperature. Okay, so for example, corn has a base temperature of 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. And so if we have a middle of the summer and we have a maximum temperature of let's say 88 degrees Fahrenheit and a minimum temperature of 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so it's a nice warm humid day. We have to calculate the average temperature just like before. So 88 degrees Fahrenheit plus 72 degrees Fahrenheit divided by 2. No, I think I came out with 160 again, didn't I? Oh well. Okay, so we got 160 degrees Fahrenheit divided by 2. So the average daily temperature is going to be 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. So our growing degree day total on that particular day, specific to corn, is going to be 80 degrees Fahrenheit minus the 50 degree base temperature. And so you will accumulate 30 growing degree days on this particular date. Okay. So if you're planting a corn crop, and maybe you know that this corn is going to be ready to harvest when you've accumulated maybe 1,300 growing degree days. So on this particular day, you have accumulated 30 of that 1,300 growing degree days. Okay, and so you keep track of how many growing degree days you accumulate. In this particular example, if corn needed 1,300 growing degree days, then once you hit that 1,300 growing degree days you're going to harvest your crop. Okay, so it's an interesting concept, and again, useful. Growing degree days are useful in the food canning industry, the agricultural industry, whereas heating degree days and cooling degree days are used in the utility company or power company industry. All right. So one more section to go on the first half of chapter 4 on temperature, and so next we'll take a look at temperature and human comfort.